Hello everybody, my name is Fox Logic and welcome to my channel. I am going to explain breeding and zeroing out and stat stacking or mutation stacking as simply as I possibly can. I'm going to use my Therazinos here lined up like little duckies in a row. So to start, we always have to go out and tame new animals in order to start a breeding line. So this one is a wild dinosaur. If we look at the ancestors, they're wild. This particular one has high melee. I have named it 48 melee, which is 48 points, and the percentage is 408. For all breeders, you're going to have to pay attention to the points and to the percentages. If you're on official servers, you kind of only have these percentages to look at. You're not going to have any mods that actually help you out. What I am going to do is I'm going to turn on the mod that I have, which is this Super Spyglass Plus. So now I can see what points this animal has. If we look on the left here, this is the mod. If you're on official servers, you will have to go onto Dododex and type in all of these percentages to see what the points are. So that's the unfortunate crutch that people on official servers have to deal with. So you'll put in melee damage, and put in 408%, and it's going to come up with how much points it has. I will say that Dododex currently right now is not geared towards Ark Survival Ascended. It still is working on Ark Survival Evolved, which the points are a little bit different, but you can still use them. You can see how many points were added, and you can kind of like decide, okay, so we've got an increase in percentage here, and that's going to equal how many points, and I'll show you how that works, or I'll explain it. But going from here, if we're looking on the left, we can see the points have been dispersed through all of the stats. So we've got 29 points into health, 42 points into weight, 33 points into stamina, 48 points into melee, 34 points into food, and 30 points into oxygen. If we add those all up plus 1, because you're always going to have that phantom 1 somewhere every time, it's always going to equal the level of the dinosaur, and in this case it's going to be 217. So what I've done is I've taken this gentleman with 408% and I bred him with this female here that has 0 in everything. So her stats, if we look on the left, 0, 0, 0, 0 all across the board. So that means that her percentages, these are the base percentages for Therazinos for Ark Survival Ascended, just all across the board. It's always going to be equal to health is going to be 870 for 0. Stamina is going to be 300 for 0. Go ahead and take a screenshot of my screen if you need to use this because it's very helpful. But when we have a point put into them, for Therazinos, 1 point equals around about 6 or 5.5 is going to be the percentage. So 1, if I give this one a level, it's going to add 5.5 or 5.6 relatively to melee percentages. So that's really super important to keep track of. If you're on official servers, what I would do is I would write down all of these, because I play this game with a spreadsheet. There is an app out there called like Ark Buddy that you can use, which is another app you have to download, which works in tandem with Ark Survival Ascended, not Evolve, or Evolve, not Ascended. Sorry, the original game. It works in tandem with the original game, where if you look at a dinosaur, it will take actually a screenshot of these stats. But personally, I just use a spreadsheet because honestly, in my opinion, it's easier. Just put down all of these points, and just whenever you get a mutation or a new dinosaur tamed, you can say, okay, so my highest percentage is this, which is this many points. So that's how I have been playing. So what I've done is I've taken a bunch of these level 0s, which in order to get level 0s, if you're on an unofficial server that does a level 0 event, which is where this particular dinosaur came from, you can do that. Or if you're on an official server, you have to tame level 5s. Level 5s need to be just as exciting to you as a level 150. If you see a level 5, tame that right away. Get that tamed. Level 10s, you can do level 10s, but I would say tame every level 5 you see. Anyway, so what I've done is I've taken all the zeros from all of the level 5s and I've bred them to be 0 at everything. So I made a bunch of these females that have 0 in everything, which turn out to be level 1. And I've tamed them back with this gentleman here. And what has happened is I've created this handsome gentleman. And this one is going to be 0 in everything except for the 48 in melee. And so if you look at him, he's got all of those base stats that we saw with that other female that's standing next to him. 0, which is the base in everything except for melee. So he's got that 408% in melee, which he got from his dad, which is that 408. So once I have a bunch of these 0 in everything except for the stat that I'm focusing, I'm calling it Fox's Melee Gen 0. And so I've bred him, this one, back with his mom, essentially, and created more of the Fox's Melee Gen 0. So I've got this female here that again has, oh, darling, excuse you, but I have this 0 in everything except for the 48 in melee, and she's got a ton of sisters that are copies of her. So I've made all of these females. I typically go with like 15 is a good amount of females to have, and I'm breeding them currently, or I bred them with this gentleman here, which is Fox's M Gen 0, which has no mutations, and that 48 points, or that 408 percentage into melee. What has happened is I then got this handsome gentleman here, who I have named Fox's Melee Gen 1. He has an increase in melee, so he got a melee mutation. So we've got 419.8, so that tells me that he increased by 11 points. And that means that for every point that he got, because a mutation is always going to be 2 points. So I've got, if you look on the left there, I've got the 48/2/0. So I've got one mutation, which gave me 2 points. So if we think about it, 1 point equals about around 5.5 or 5.6, since if we look at the percentage, he's got a 419.8. So what I'm hoping to get is I'm going to continually breed this handsome gentleman back with his mother, who is a non-mutated animal, Fox's Melee Gen 0, and hopefully try to get a new mutation. I'm never going to have a Fox's Melee Gen 1 female. Ever. Never, ever, ever breed a mutated animal with a mutated animal. What happens is that you get fake mutations. It will use up the mutation slot that you have. You got matrilineal and patrilineal. Once these hit 20, you can't get any more. So I want to make sure this is clean, smooth sailing. So every one mutation needs to increase that percentage of, from 419, it's going to have to be 431, you know, because it increases by 11. So it has to be an increase in percentage as well as an increase in the mutation. If I get a new mutation, like say for instance I breed him with his daughter who also has his mutation, if he and her breed, that's going to take up one of these slots, so then it's going to show 2 out of 20, but their percentage is still going to be 419. That's muddled. That's what muddled means. So when you muddle dinosaur, that means you bred 2 mutated animals together and you get all of these accidental fake mutations that don't actually increase this percentage. You want to make sure this percentage is increased at the same time you increase these levels. So that's why it's really important when you do a mutation stacking or you breed for mutation stacking, you breed the male. Hopefully, that's the easy part. If you get the mutation on the male, then you just breed it with a female without any mutations. If you get a mutation on the female, that's easy to fix. It's going to be a little bit of a setback, not that bad though. What you do is you breed the mutated female. If you get, like, if, say for instance, I finally get my second mutated male or mutated melee. So I got a 48/4/0, and I finally get that percentage, which is 431. And I'm like, oh, great. But I can't breed her with females because I guess that's how this game works. So I'm going to breed her back with her grandfather. And what's going to happen is I'm just going to breed her with him until I get a male that has those 2 mutations. That's going to give me my percentage of 331 or 431. So once I have that male with 2 mutations with 431 as a percentage, I will breed him back with his mom or grandma at this point. So that way I can continuously stack clean mutations. Like, the whole point is, I know that it just got really complicated for a second, but the whole point is to stack clean mutations. If you have a mutated animal, you do not want to breed that mutated animal with a mutated animal until you're ready to combine all of your mutations. So I'm going to always breed it back with a non-mutated animal. Hopefully that mutated animal is going to have the base stats that I want, which is why I'm focusing mostly on these Gen 1s or full zeros. You can, some breeders will just straight up go, I don't want to deal with this extra mutation or extra stack of like 48. I don't want to deal with that. You can just breed them all back with these Gen nothings, these full zeros, and that way you can try to stack that, because what you're trying to do is stack it back on the dad's melee, so that way you can get what you're trying to get. Like from this one, I want to get from 50, I want to go 52. So if I get a mutation on the 0, or if I get a mutation on, excuse me, the 48, I'm gonna just eat that egg. Those eggs get eaten. In fact, this is a good spot to look. If you get an egg from these guys, and the mutation is on the 48 after already having a mutation, or the 0, you eat the egg. You don't need that egg. So I hope that makes sense. Essentially what we're doing is we're trying to cleanly stack that mutation. 48 becomes 50. 50 becomes 52. 52 becomes 54, and so forth. We don't want to breed any mutated animals with other mutated animals. The only time that we want to breed mutated animals with mutated animals is once we are done with stacking this melee mutation. I'm going to go back later and try to stack a health mutation. So once my melee mutation hits about 90 is where my goal is, because I want to have both health and melee for boss fights. So their maximum level that they can get to is 450. And we always get about 60 points that we can use for leveling up a dinosaur. So you take that 450 minus 60, and then you're going to be getting like 390. And then 390 divided by 2. So that's essentially, you want to get 90 mutations for one if you want to do a dual mutated animal. So that I'm aiming for 90. So like once I get from 48 to 90, I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to go do it for health. I'm going to get that to 90, and then I'm going to breed those 90 mutated animals for health and 90 mutated animals for melee. I'm going to breed them together, and that's when it's the only time that's appropriate to breed mutated animals together. Anyway, very complicated. I'm sorry if it got super complicated, but hopefully this visual has helped. We want to breed this gentleman with a 0. So breed him with a 0. Get that one. Breed that one back with the 0 to get this one. So that way you've got 2 animals that are exactly identical with 0 mutations. Excuse you, miss. Breed her with him to get him. That way you have the 1 mutation that's not muddled, and then breed him with her. So that way you have the mutated animal with a non-mutated animal that has the base melee. and continuously breed her with him until you get the second mutation. Replace him, like I'm going to take him completely out. I'm going to go put him in my cryo fridge, and then he's going to be replaced by his son. So the son is going to breed with her again and get another mutation. And then she's going to breed with her again. So you're probably going to want a lot of these Gen Zeros. They are your lifesaver for breeding. So Gen 4, Gen 5, Gen 6, Gen 7, they are all breeding with these girls right here. Your rock stars, your Charlie's Angels, your Gen Zero females are the bread and butter. Anyway, I hope that was helpful in explaining how mutations work. Also, I don't know if I said this earlier, but mutations do not stack. You cannot take a mutation from this guy and put that mutation on any other stat. You cannot do it. You cannot try to breed him with another mutated animal. You'll just get a bunch of muddling. Don't do it. Anyway, thanks for watching my video. Have a good one. Bye!